Imagine with me for a minute. It's the year 2007, 2008, something like that. You're sitting inside a boardroom. The topic of discussion is a new thrill machine for Universal Studios. You have a good idea what kind of thrills you are going for, and of course, it has to be a roller coaster. You want something that looks original, delivering unique elements, and capable of handling a high rider input. Up to this point, the primary manufacturer that you've been working with on your previous roller coaster projects is B&M. They provided Incredible Hulk, the frontlining attraction at Islands of Adventure, and up to this point, Dueling Dragons was operating in its peak performance. Even though you enjoyed working with them, you want something a little bit more original. Intamin Amusement Rides is doing interesting things, including their vertical lift roller coaster and hydraulic launches. But again, let's go with someone a little bit more unknown, maybe a manufacturer that has only worked on smaller projects. You go with Maurer Rides. Okay, they may not be the most orthodox company to work with, but what they can do will definitely grab your attention with the vertical lift, non-inverting loop, and various turns and hills filled with strong G-forces and airtime. Now the type of ride has been decided on, let's get to the theming. This is Universal Studios, so you have a rich collection of interesting IPs to work with. What? You don't want to use any of them? Just want to go with a weird generic theme evolving around music? What? Yes, that is what you do. Doesn't have to be too elaborate, just throw in some random TVs in the queue, you know, like Six Flags. Oh, but the real kicker is on-ride audio. You know, something that even Six Flags was doing at the time. Wait, you're gonna turn it up a notch and let the writers pick a handful of outdated songs that nobody likes. Okay, well that might be a little exaggerated, but now that sounds like a winner. Okay, so yeah, Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit is a very weird roller coaster. We have a slightly unknown manufacturer, at least on bigger projects like this anyways. A bland theme. Sure, Disney has Rock and Roller Coaster, but many would argue that it has weak theming also. Well, let's dissect these topics a little more because there's a lot here to unpack. Theming. As I said it already, the theming for this attraction is low bar Six Flags level. I don't care how much you want to dress it up, this is a cop-out attempt at theming that Universal should be ashamed of. This is about on par with that whole dinosaur carnival themed area at Animal Kingdom. Like, just why? The whole concept of picking your music to listen to while riding seems neat, but in the end, I really don't care. I mean, most of the teens standing in line have AirPods and are already listening to something that they want to listen to. Oh, wait, they aren't because Universal will basically strip search you before riding this attraction, but we'll talk about that later.
Not so fast, Frenchie. All right. Okay.
Back to theming, it's weak. Enough said. Ride layout. This is the one redeeming quality of Rip Ride Rockit. The layout is pretty good for the most part. You start off with a vertical lift, but unfortunately the first drop isn't that steep, but whatever. The non-inverting loop is neat, probably my favorite part of the ride. After that, it's just a bunch of nice drops off the block breaks. Yes, some nickname this roller coaster Block Break the Ride because it has a total of 4 mid-course brake runs, or MCBRs for short. Back to the layout, besides the pops of airtime off the block breaks, the ride performs a lot of turnarounds or helixes, which will provide some stronger G-forces. If you can believe it, I started to gray out twice on this attraction, and I didn't even gray out once on Incredible Hulk. Ride capacity. I have a feeling that one of the main reasons why Maurer Rides got this project was over their projected ride capacity. According to RCDB, Rip Ride Rockit should be hitting 1,850 riders an hour, which I'm totally calling cap on this one. With that number, it means that this coaster needs to dispatch 154 trains an hour, or every 23 seconds to hit that number. Anyone who's been to Universal knows that Rip Ride Rockit isn't dispatching that quickly. At its best, it might hit those numbers, but this coaster goes down all the time for random reasons. It can never keep up. On average, I was seeing dispatches between 30 and 40 seconds, probably a little bit longer, which isn't bad. But I can't help wonder if Universal was disappointed with the average dispatch numbers at the end of the day. Lockers and the queue. Rip Ride Rockit is one of those attractions at Universal Studios that requires all loose items to be placed inside a locker. That means no cell phones with you while you stand in one of the worst outdoor queues at a Universal park. This queue was also one of the more confusing. I had the express line pass, and it had a separate line but then dumped you right back into the main queue for the lockers. Thankfully, there are plenty of lockers, more spread out unlike the other locker systems in the park. I'm looking at you, Green Dots. However, when you get off the ride, the locker system was tripping, telling us that we had to pay to unlock it. The irony, your wallet was inside the locker, so how exactly is that supposed to work? Anyways, I had to track down an employee, wait for them to override the system, and a few minutes later, we were on our way. So let's talk about the queue and the theming. So if you call a bunch of TVs playing music videos or introductions to the ride as theming, then yes, Rip Ride Rockit has theming. As I said earlier, this is Six Flags quality, and Universal should be ashamed of themselves. When I pay over $100 for a single day pass, I expect top shelf quality, and not this run-of-the-mill filler attraction. Finally, let's talk the last reason why Rip Ride Rockit is bad. The Rattle. Ever since his roller coaster opened back in 2009, it has been known to have a rattle. For the most part, it isn't a big deal, but the transition exiting the non-inverting loop and during the two helixes were rather uncomfortable. I know that some do not mind the rattle, but this ride gave me an instant headache. The rattle outdid anything positive Rip Ride Rockit had to offer, which is why I would probably only ride this roller coaster once a visit if the wait isn't too long, of course. So, for my final words, Rip Ride Rockit, is it really a bad roller coaster? On a coaster level, it's like middle-of-the-road quality. Nothing too exciting, but not boring either. It has its flaws, but some can overlook those. Now, if this roller coaster was at a Six Flags park or even a Cedar Fair park, it would get more love and feel more in place. Being at Universal Studios, an alleged top-tiered theme park, this is bottom barrel material. I shouldn't be thinking Six Flags when standing around in the queue. If you ask me, in 5 to 10 years, whenever this ride reaches the end of its service life, we won't see a complete retracking like we did with Incredible Hulk. I expect to see this ride torn down and replaced with something worthy of being at Universal Studios. Thank you for watching today's bad coaster review. So did I get this right, or was I too harsh on Rip Ride Rockit? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, please click on that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. That way you won't miss out on more great content brought to you by Extreme Thrills.